Hey everyone, John from Nintendo Life here, and today I want to talk about something I did the other week. I finally finished my gap in the Zelda series. I've played every game in this franchise to completion, including the Tingle games, even the Japanese exclusive one, but this one game has always eluded me, and it's in the title, so I don't know why I'm trying to be mysterious about this, but it's Zelda II, The Adventure of Link. Now this is probably one of the first Zeldas I attempted, but I kept shelving it, and I've attempted it time and time again over the years. But I always get to maybe the second temple, maybe the third temple, but I never get any further than that. So this past week, I thought to myself, let's just do it. It's not a long game, just get it over with. Just have your Zelda collection complete. Because, I mean, it's just been sitting there for years and years and years, so why not? But Zelda's been my favourite franchise for as long as I can remember. You might think it's Donkey Kong, or Resident Evil, or Dark Souls, or whatever else I badger on about. But no, it is Zelda, which you can probably tell from what's behind me. I've been a Zelda fan since I've been a Nintendo fan. I grew up with the Dreamcast and the PlayStation 2, and while I had a Game Boy and Game Boy Advance, I never really tried the more core Nintendo franchises in my youthful days. And it wasn't until the Wii, with the Virtual Console, where I really got into it. But prior to the Wii, I was really excited for Twilight Princess, which was the reason I was getting a Wii. And my friend had a GameCube, and we had a really weird relationship where I'd go around his house and watch him play games. So we'd have multiplayer games like Smash Bros. Melee, and instead of playing together, I'd just watch him play through the adventure mode time and time again. It was a very weird relationship, but I'd also watch him play through The Legend of Zelda, The Wind Waker. And here in the UK and broader Europe, most copies of Wind Waker came with the Master Quest and Ocarina of Time. I believe this was a pre-order bonus in America, but most copies here just had it by default. So we also played through that. I watched him play through Ocarina of Time. He never finished it though, so I was on a mission to beat it before he did. So before the Wii came out, I went to my local game store called Kart Club, which no longer exists, unfortunately, but Kart Club was a retro game store, and they sold, like, all the old stuff. But this was before the big retro boom, so everything was dirt cheap. And I got an N64 with Ocarina of Time for I think £15 in total. I bought so much at that store over the years. But yeah, so I bought an N64 just for this one game. I never bought anything else for it for years after that, but I just wanted to have my Zelda fix. So Ocarina of Time was my first Zelda game, and I loved it. I loved it so much that I played through the entire thing in maybe a day and a half, and my friend had it for like a year, so what's his excuse? But yeah, I beat him to the punch, and finally finished Ocarina of Time, and from there on, I was a Zelda fan. So I got a Wii with Twilight Princess, and then I was hooked on the Virtual Console after that. So I downloaded Zelda 1 on, I think, day 1 when I got my Wii. But when the Wii first came out, the Virtual Console lineup was small, and so Zelda 2 wouldn't come out until, I think, like March? And I couldn't wait for that! So because the Wii was backwards compatible with the GameCube, I was going back through the backlog like crazy. I was playing through almost every major Nintendo Virtual Console game that came to the service, and I was buying a bunch of GameCube games. I bought Mario Sunshine, I bought Wind Waker, Metroid Prime, so many others. But I also bought this game right here. Zelda Collector's Edition. Now, my copy was actually stolen not too long after, because my house got broken into. But this copy was gifted to me by a very generous user, back on NeoGAF when that was still really a thing. So this was a 4-game collection of Zelda 1, Zelda 2, Ocarina of Time, and Majora's Mask. And Majora's Mask was the main reason I got this collection, because I wanted the follow-up to Ocarina of Time, but it didn't come to Virtual Console until much longer after. And it also had a demo for Wind Waker as well, which was quite cool. So I first played through Majora's Mask on this thing, and I adored it. I know it's seen as like the worst way to play that game now, but I had a really good time. And then I played Zelda 2, and I didn't get far at all. I think I finished the first temple, and I just didn't want to play anymore. I bought it again on the Virtual Console. I don't know why I did, but I did. And same thing happened. I think I got to the part where there's a hidden town in the bushes, and I never found that town, so I just didn't play any longer than that. And over the years, I've come back again and again, just trying to get further in Zelda 2. And it's never happened. I played it on Wii U, on 3DS, just never got any further for some reason. So yeah, on this weekend, I was revisiting Switch Online, because I always complain about the service, but I rarely use it. I use it for Panel de Pon, and little else. So I wanted to just try things out for a while, and because Famicom Online has the disk system versions, I was tempted to try those. So I did an entire playthrough of Famicom Disk System Metroid, from beginning to end, and it was fascinating. There's load times between zones, but the music was the real reason I wanted to play that game. And then I played the Famicom Disk System version of Zelda II, and that's also very fascinating. Tons of graphical changes, tons of sound changes, and there's load times as well. And I was just so fascinated by all of this that I thought, dude, you never played Zelda 2 all the way through. Just do it. And I didn't play the Famicom Disk System version. I went back to the NES version on NES Online. And I just played through the entire game. I had no excuse this time. I just went further than I usually do. And I found the hidden town. And I got further than I have ever had before. And I played so much over the weekend I could barely put this thing down. And that was a challenge because my daughter was hitting at the Switch while I was playing. It's hard to play games when you have a child. So that was hard mode, I suppose. So I kept playing further and further, and it clicked. I liked Zelda 2. It's always been the black sheep of the franchise. A lot of people say that it's obscure, and I'm not actually sure it is. There's segments where people complain about, there's one near the end where you go to the wall of the town at the end and use the spell. And I'm always hearing that that's such an obscure thing you need Nintendo Power for. But there's an NPC in that town who tells you, there's a secret at the end of the town. And because you get the spell in that town, I thought, there you go, use it there. So yeah, that stuff was never bizarre to me. What was bizarre though, is the combat. So there's these enemies in Zelda 2, which have shields, and you're meant to sort of urban champion them, where you have to guess where they're gonna go and hit them. But the thing is they always know where you're gonna go. So if they're down here, right, you think, okay, I'm gonna stab them up here. And then they're like, nope, I'm gonna go up here too. So you're always just going this back and forth of just trying to eventually break their shield. And it's tough. It's just a lot of guessing. People say you're meant to jump and then stab, and that kind of bypasses it. It does most of the time. But then the game's like, what if we gave those shield guys a sword so that they're stabbing you while you're trying to do this? And that's hard. But then they go, what if you give the stabby guys projectiles so that they're not only trying to hit you from far away, but they throw them at your shield height and your knee height. So you've got to try and block them while trying to stab them while they're trying to block you. And then they go, what if those guys who have the projectiles are trying to stab you while you're trying to stab them while they're throwing things? What if they jump? What if they jump around? I don't like that. The enemies in this game are brutal. They're brutally hard. And at the final dungeon where those jumpy guys come in, I didn't attempt to try and kill any of them. I ran for my life. I went under their jumps, I just ran. I ran forever. But then there's parts where these blocks come in, and you've got to destroy the blocks while they're jumping after you. So I am not afraid to admit that I use the rewind feature a lot in this game. I rewound like there was no one's business. I was just rewinding all the time. But even though I kind of cheated, I enjoyed my time. And I've got newfound respect for this game. I think the overworld is pretty ingenious. There's lots of great puzzle aspects in there. And sort of chipping away at the world's great too. There are these boulders that block your path, so of course you can't go that way. So you go to a town, and this game introduced towns. Zelda 1 was just this barren landscape of temples, and I like it for that. But this was so much broader. And you can see the stepping stones of where Zelda would go. Things like the magic meter, and towns, and the overworld split. They are things that came into Zelda games to follow. And while A Link to the Past would kind of sort of merge the overworld and the towns together, you can still see all the aspects of Zelda 2 in there. And it's just great to see, where this franchise went. And while it definitely is the black sheep of them all, it's something you should definitely play if you are a fan. And I kind of regret not playing all these years, because I did enjoy my time. It was brutal, it was hard, it was definitely a test on my willpower, but I got through to the end. And by the way, those stabby guys, the ones that just throw projectiles, in one of the temples, they're just the boss. And they're a normal enemy. They've appeared prior to that. But there's this boss that comes in on a horse. And for the first phase, he just sort of goes back and forth, and it's really easy, you just jump on his head. But then he just comes down, he's like, hey, I'm just one of those guys, and he's the hardest boss in the game! Oh man. So yeah, if it weren't for those shield guys, I think Zelda 2 would be revered as one of the best Zelda games. I had a great time with this one. I think the moment-to-moment gameplay is probably more fun than the first game. It's just, the combat is just so brutally hard. So if they ever remake Zelda 2 and make the combat more tolerable, I think this would definitely be seen as a much better game than it is. But because it's so hard, it's often at the bottom of top 10 or top 20 Zelda lists, which is a shame. And up until now, I probably would have been one of those people who put it at the bottom, because I didn't appreciate this game until now. So I don't know what I'm trying to say here. I guess what I'm trying to say is, if a game gives you a bad first impression, just maybe give it another chance. Maybe you're in the wrong mindset. Maybe you had a bad mood that day. Just if it's a classic game, try it again. Maybe it is something you'll like. I've been on an NES kick lately. I played through Punch-Out from beginning to end. I played through Metroid, as I said earlier. Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels. I guess for a little while, I was one of those people who are like, NES games? They've aged, but no, they haven't. I'm still having a great time with these. I'm not saying the entire library hasn't, but for me, Zelda 2 and a bunch of Nintendo's other first-party games are still just as good as they were, well, as they ever were. And while you may need some modern features like save states and rewinds to properly enjoy them, their enjoyment still bleeds through that. So, if you enjoyed this, let me know in the comments below. I know this was very unstructured, but I just kind of want to get my thoughts out on Zelda 2, because I do think this is a good game. And I think it doesn't get the respect it deserves, and I'm one of those people who didn't give it the respect for a while. But yeah, let us know what you guys think about Zelda 2 in the comments below, and go to that subscribe button and give it another chance, and we'll see you next time. Bye everyone.